Welcome back to another Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're going to be taking a look at the basics of setting up your car in ACC. We'll take a look at the tire pressures, toe, the anti-roll bars and the aerodynamics screen. We're going to take a look at what the impact of making setup changes with these components is. We're also going to analyze the effects of some of the setup changes with the TrackTitan platform, where you can analyze your own driving for free and get a couple of extra insights if you sign up with code SETUP. Now, before we pop the hood and start tinkering around with the setup, you must first have a goal in mind. Do you want to reduce under or oversteer? Does the car feel too rigid or twitchy? And there's many more questions you can ask to find out what kind of setup changes you want to make. Then, if you have decided on where you want to take that setup, make one change at a time to see how it affects the drivability of the car. If you change more than one thing at a time, it will be harder to figure out which change has which specific effect. So especially if you're new to custom setups, start with one change at a time. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into it. One of the most important changes you can make in real life and in ACC is optimizing your tire pressures. The tire pressures affect three things: the amount of grip your tires have, how hot they get, and their degradation. When your tires are at their optimal pressure, theoretically they'll perform their best. They'll have a good amount of grip, they won't get too hot, and they'll have an evenly distributed degradation pattern. Now, in most cases you want to aim for the optimal tire pressure, which is around 27.7 psi when they're hot. The setup screen shows you the current tire pressure, so if you're making the changes before you start the race, you gotta account for the track temperature as well. If you're struggling for grip a lot, you might want to lower your tire pressures just a little bit. This gives your tires a larger contact patch with the road and therefore should provide you with a little more extra grip. Now, the toe affects the angle of the wheels when you view them from above. If they're pointing inward, we call it toe in, and when they're pointing outwards, you obviously call it toe out. In ACC, a positive toe value corresponds with the toe in. Negative values means toe out. When changing the toe of the front wheels, toe in will make your car more stable, toe out will make your car more responsive in corners, but too much can cause oversteer. And when you change the toe of the rear wheels, toe in will increase the rear stability and toe out will decrease your rear stability, which is definitely not advised unless you want to go drifting. Use toe wisely to make your car more stable or responsive. The anti-roll bars help reduce the body roll of your car during cornering. They connect the left and right wheels together through a short lever arm and greatly affect the nervousness of your car. A common misconception is that stiffer is always better, which is not true. A rule of thumb you can work with is that softer most often means more grip, which goes for the anti-roll bars, for the springs, tire pressures, and so on. You have a front and rear anti-roll bar, and these have the following effects. Your front ARB mostly impacts the behavior of your car on corner entry, and the rear ARB mostly impacts the behavior of your car when you get on the throttle. You can stiffen or soften both of these on the mechanical grip screen, and the number represents the stiffness of the anti-roll bar. So a higher number means a stiffer anti-roll bar and a lower number means a softer ARB. If you're having trouble on corner entry, you want to change your front anti-roll bar. In case of understeer, soften it up a little bit, which means lowering the value. In case of oversteer on corner entry, stiffen it up a tad, which means you need to increase the value of your front anti-roll bar. Now, when you're having trouble on corner exits, soften your rear anti-roll bar if you're struggling with oversteer, and stiffen it up a little bit if you're struggling with understeer. We can beautifully see the effects of changing the ARB settings through Silverstone's Lovefield corner when we compare these two laps on a TrackTitan platform. The orange driver is using the standard aggressive setup, while in the blue driver's case the anti-roll bars have been softened up a little bit. In the speed chart, we can see that the blue driver maintains a higher minimum speed throughout the corner while having virtually the same racing line. Now this is a great example of the increased grip softer anti-roll bars can provide. Now we're on to the aerodynamics screen. And the first setup change we can make here is the ride height. The ride height mostly affects the aerodynamic balance of your car. Now if you mess up the balance of your aero, you can make your car very unstable, so watch out with this one. If you raise up the rear of your car, you'll generally experience more oversteer, and if you lower the rear, you'll experience more understeer. My advice is to change the ride height minimally before changing the rest of your aero. Now we're on to the rear wing. Increasing the amount of rear wing will increase the amount of downforce your car has at the rear. This is a way to get rid of oversteer problems because your rear tires will be supplied with more grip. But too much rear wing will introduce understeer and decrease your top speed. And the final part we're going to talk about on this screen is the front splitter. Increasing the amount of front splitter will give you more downforce at the front, resulting in more grip being supplied to your front tires. When you set it right, it will decrease understeer, but set it too high and you'll introduce oversteer. Now we hope you've learned something about setups today and know the basics to start tinkering with your own setups if you feel like your car is not completely as you'd like it to be. Let us know in the comments down below if you have any questions about what we've discussed today, and we hope to see you in the next video.